The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Thursday, March 14th, and today is National Write It Down Your Story Day. For all you autobiographers out there. It's also National Children's Craft Day. It's also, yeah, right? Just, paint by numbers and all that fun stuff, Rico. Finger painting.
All of it.
Yes.
All of it.
National Learn About Butterflies Day, because I guess everybody gets nervous. It's also
shout out to the caterpillars. Shout out to the caterpillars out there. You shall have your day.
It's also National Pie Day for all you circumference readers out there. And it is Rico's favorite day of the year. It is National Potato Chip Day. That's right.
They ain't sweet potato chips, you know what I'm saying?
It's not, no, does not say sweet. It just says regular potato chips.
I am black, but I'm not a black Irish. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, boy.
They're cool. They're cool, but they ain't everything.
That's right. You're not laying it down, huh? You're not lazing it down. Well, thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look down below on your screen to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. But kicking it off first, we have the dope dad himself, whose green screen is working today. And he's actually coming through crispy clean. That's right. He must have got a camera upgrade. That's right. It is the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte.
Yeah, Jason.
What's on your thumbs, Rico?
So,
what's on your thumbs?
My thumbs?
Yeah. What's
my my aura ring. This one? Okay. My thumb. Ain't nothing on my thumb.
Okay.
It's on my pinky.
Just wait.
All right, but
just wait till you see the show.
So this story's been floating around a couple of days, and I bit on it. And when I first saw today's headline, I thought it would be funny, lighthearted story. And I'd write a few jokes and light jabs at those involved, and we'd move on. But man, was I wrong. So buckle up, y'all. This Louisiana law enforcement rat hole runs deeper than the headline implies. AP News correspondent Haya Panjwani reported that rats in New Orleans police headquarters have allegedly been feasting on confiscated evidence, weed, at the as the building has been taken over by mold and cockroaches. And the city's police chief, Ann Kirkpatrick, said that she's had enough of it. The rats are eating our marijuana. They're all high, Kirkpatrick told New Orleans City Council members. These vermin-infested offices have housed New Orleans police since 1968, and she claims officers regularly find rat droppings at their desks. Adam, can you play this video, please, for the good people at home?
Give him a second. Here we go. Oh, there we go.
The uncleanliness is off the charts, but it's even health issues such as mold, heavy mold. In these buildings, rodent infestation. People shouldn't have to come to their office and see rodent drippings on their desk. that is not valuing your people. In the evidence property room that you took a tour of, I stopped you and I said, Councilmember, come back. I want you to see the tray of all of the
roaches.
Major rodents on the floor, the cockroaches, the rats eating our marijuana. They're all high. The fact that officers have nowhere to use a restroom. This is not acceptable. To have your plumbing go completely out in your department. These are basics. And when we say we value our employees, you can't say that and at the same time allow people to work in conditions that are not acceptable.
Okay. So I'm sad. So sad for these officers. Of course, the police department did not immediately respond to an emailed request Wednesday by AP News for more information on how they discovered the marijuana was being eaten by rats or whether any cases were impacted. Because, of course, cases were impacted by this rat infestation and evidence had been compromised. But they are not in Louisiana trying to free any more slaves if they don't have to. More on that in just a second. But first, we're going to follow this money. City officials say that they're taking steps to move the department into a new space, a priority of the police chief since she took office back in October. Kirkpatrick said that 910 officers come to work and find air conditioning and elevators broken, and it's demoralizing to staff, a turnoff to potential recruits coming in for interviews. Say word. The city council is weighing a proposal to spend $7.6 million on a 10-year lease to temporarily relocate the police headquarters to a pair of floors in a high-rise building downtown. The Times-Picayune and the New Orleans Advocate reported that the council's Criminal Justice Committee agreed Monday to advance the leasing proposal to the full city council for a vote, and that's the video that we're seeing here. Kirkpatrick says the rental agreement would give the department time to come up with plans for a new department, permanent headquarters. Ron Harrison, Global Technical Officer for Director for Orkin Pest Control, told the Associated Press he has not encountered anyone reporting rats eating their marijuana, though the company has pest control contracts for a number of city officials and local greenhouses that grow marijuana. Harrison said the New Orleans situation is not completely shocking, though, since rats are omnivores and that rats may experience some of the same effects from marijuana as humans, depending on what form it is in. From understanding the biology of the rat and how it's somehow similar to us, I would think based on the amount of concentration they take in, it would be somewhat similar to what humans experience. Okay, let's break this shit down. In all fairness, Kirkpatrick's new to the job trying to fix literal shit that's been going down way before she was police chief. However, as much as some of y'all want to have sympathy for these cops in their decaying stoner rat-infested precinct, I do not. Louisiana police are just modern-day slave catchers. More on that in a second. Kirkpatrick wants to waste $7.6 million of taxpayer money on a 10-year lease for 2 floors of a vacant commercial office building. Really? In this market? Who owns that building? Yarrow? You're a real estate expert, not me, but last I checked, nobody's using traditional office space right now because everybody's working from home or they're in hybrid positions where they're Zooming all the time. How about using that money to fix some of that other shit wrong with Louisiana's slave-ass state correctional system? Y'all think I'm speaking hyperbolically? I am not. Look it up. Slavery is still legal in Louisiana. It's written into their constitution. Back in 2022, it was revealed that Louisiana was among several other American states that for some reason forgot to abolish slavery legally in their constitution, removed that verbiage, making it so from their state constitution standpoint. Louisiana Illuminators Greg LaRose reported last that the lawmaker who suggested an edit to Louisiana's constitution to officially prohibit slavery and involuntary servitude, and then asked voters to reject it, revised his proposal last May, and it was passed unanimously, 98-0 by Louisiana's House, only to be blocked by the state Senate 3 weeks later. So 8 months ago, last June, Louisiana refused to ban slavery. A month later, July 2023, it was reported that Angola Prison, Louisiana's finest modern plantation. According to court filings backed by the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, National Prison Project, and other civil rights attorneys revealed juvenile delinquents were being housed in Angola and suffering extended periods of solitary confinement without access to clean water, adequate food, and air conditioning. January 2024, 2 months ago, it was revealed that Angola prisoners were being used as a hidden workforce linked to hundreds of popular food brands, a critical part of food supply chain, loading up unmarked trucks packed with prison-raised cattle. No joke. Men sentenced to hard labor and forced to work for pennies an hour, or a lot of the time, nothing at all. Slavery. Handling rancher duties, shipping out livestock 600 miles away to a Texas slaughterhouse, feeding the supply chains of McDonald's, Walmart, Target, Cargill, and many other household names. And this is just the most recent shit reported about Angola over the last 7 months, not even a full year. I haven't even touched, and nor do we have the time to run through over the last few years. The multiple fires, mold-infested cells, rape, murder, thousands of unreported staff violations. This shit is real-life modern-day slavery and forgotten human beings, many locked up for low-level, non-violent crimes, many weed convictions. They've copped to bullshit plea deals because they ain't got money for cash bail, or they were represented by incompetent and or overworked public defenders. These human lives are being used for labor and thrown away in the year 2024, literally rotting in Louisiana's slave system. And you all want us to care about rats allegedly getting high off of evidence weed and shitting on your desk so taxpayers can feed more bodies into the meat grinder. With no proof of this happening or comments on said violent evidence illegally being used to feed the Louisiana slave machine. Y'all want to use taxpayer money to fix this. How about legalizing retail cannabis instead of celebrating the 10th and final medical dispensary opening in Kenner today, which I'm happy, some folks will be able to find relief, but Louisiana is capping its medical system at 10 dispensaries across the whole damn state. Until the state of Louisiana starts making common sense laws to get clean meds to all of its citizens, the cops will keep getting shat on. The Louisiana trap will keep feeding these rats, y'all. And the system's designed to feed itself. Voters in Alabama, Oregon, Tennessee, Vermont all amended their state constitutions in November 2022 to abolish those words and ban involuntary servitude and slavery, following Nebraska and Utah, who finally developed a conscience to pass similar amendments after seeing George Floyd lynched in broad daylight. To the racist cowards in the Louisiana State Senate, all 16 of y'all who voted against finally abolishing slavery in 50 years after it was done federally, I would not be surprised if a quick look into their lineage revealed an unsavory link to slave masters and plantation owners that they've descended from. According to NOLA.com, Louisiana's U.S. Senator John Kennedy, U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy, U.S. Representative Garrett Graves, and U.S. Representative Julia Letlow are linked to slavery. All are descendants of enslavers whose families became and remain wealthy to this day. So is Governor John Bel Edwards. Is this a coincidence? You be the judge. Until y'all start putting money into kicking these slave masters out of office and ending the dirty-ass New Age slave system at its root, I have zero sympathy for the desks of y'all slave-catching ass foot soldiers getting shat on by pothead rats perpetually. My name is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street. For High 9 News, I am sad that I followed the money this morning.
Well, you know what? I am happy that he did. Thank God.
Man, oh man, and they're trying to divert all of this money to the rats. This is divert all the attention. It's all about the rat droppings, when really they're just dropping dimes on people out there, literally.
Real talk, Yarrow. You think they're getting a deal? Downtown New Orleans, but $8 million for a 10-year lease.
Well,
two floors for the just for the cop shop to move over there. Is that a good investment?
Arm's length transaction that represents market rate? I don't know about that. What I know is that the procedure to protect from contracts being given out without making sure that those prices represent the general market means multiple estimates, multiple locations bidded, and no locations under consideration where the ownership group has any interest in or overlap with that government agency. There's a lot to unpack in this, right? And I think one of the things that we need to talk about, aside from language in or out of antiquated state documents, is the level of accountability that law enforcement has and whether it has civilian review or not. And, cops are like teachers and firefighters. It's like the electric third rail to suggest anything other than to just thank people for their service. And it is worth noting that many of the police officer unions across the country were very resistant to things like body cams that would have allowed for civilian review and checks and balances. And that's always got to be a real concern. And so it's interesting to me because typically the right doesn't like bloated government budgets and says starve the government. But if it's the militarization of civilian law enforcement, typically that frugal budget approach sort of goes out the window when you're on the red side of the conversation, right? The other thing that's interesting to me is most people on the right tend to have a dim view of unions. And yet the police unions across the country are some of the most powerful and influential unions in this country. And in many ways, shielding some of those people in those organizations from civilian oversight and accountability to third-party agencies or investigative arms. And so I look at the Law 360, and I had seen some pretty damning stuff in Louisiana recently where they had rented a warehouse near the downtown police department and then used it as like a black ops off-site location to do various things, and that it was investigated by the FBI. And the truth is, we have this argument in this society that for the most part, law enforcement staff are good people. And we have this argument, but for a few rotten apples, okay? But for a few rotten apples. And then it becomes this thing, well, it's only 0.000 whatever % of law enforcement people who are not good people, and that they're the ones that get splashed on the headlines, and they're the ones that are giving these otherwise noble departments a bad name. The problem that I have with that often used analogy is, where is the internal accountability behind the thin blue line? And why are cops not ferreting out bad cops? Why are they not stringing them up by their fingernails and making them accountable? And so you can look across this country from Louisiana to Oakland to Los Angeles to New York, and not in our ancient history, but in our recent history, like San Francisco police setting up Jamal Truelove for a murder he didn't commit, and he got out and sued them for $14 million. Who was the DA at that time? I think it was Kamala Harris. But never mind that. Never mind. I digress.
Can I intercede real quick? Because you said some things that were incorrect, Yarrow. The majority of militarized police departments are in liberal communities and cities like San Francisco, who was once led by Kamala Harris, like New York City, who is now being led by Mayor Eric Adams, who also wanted to reestablish the stop and frisk laws, which we know are unconstitutional. I think that it's very unfair to say one side in particular, when I believe that the left was screaming defund the police while the whole entire time they fund the militarization of the police departments. This is a both-sided thing. This is not a one-sided thing. Listen, for the people who are watching, I'm not on any political side. I'm just a Donald Trump supporter. I don't trust anyone on any political side, and I believe they play good cop, bad cop. The majority of cases where blacks are treated indifferently by police officers are in liberal communities. The first time I've ever had a gun pointed in my face and or at me was in New York City, ran by liberals, and I was a young man. I didn't have any firearms or anything on me. It wasn't just the red states that were against body cams. It was all states pretty much that were against body cams. And I don't think that it's fair as far as the rats are concerned, because if they're getting high then the stress of being in the shithole building that they're in is alleviated by at least some good boof weed if they eat enough of it. So I just wanted to top on that too.
Oh man,
rats are stressed out. Nobody's defending
and
the
that's
rat.
it. That's all I gotta say.
I love. I'm not suggesting that the militarization of law enforcement across the country was a red or a blue state dynamic.
It's both.
It's absolutely both. So we're agreeing there. What I was suggesting is that you find on the red anti-union sentiment until you get to police unions, and you often find on red this notion of accountability and starve the government through smaller budgets, but for police department budgets. And you're absolutely right that the militarization,
both sides do the same
militarization
thing.
of law enforcement has occurred across the country under red or blue, and a lot of that has been this gifting down of military equipment from our
and predominantly in liberal cities and communities, though, brother.
I mean, not every police department in a 5,000 person town needs a battle tank, right? And yet we've seen this equipment that was typically designed for theaters of operation overseas, and then defense departments are giving this, and next thing you know, everybody's got
they already made it. They already made this stuff for different military operations, and they want to try to repurpose it so they can recycle it because that's part of the Green New Deal.
Reuse, repurpose, and here's your bazooka, right? No, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
I mean, that's just a way of indirectly programming your police officers to think that they're supreme against the people that they're supposed to serve and protect, and instead of serving and protecting them, they actually oppress them, lock them down, and treat them indifferent. This is what happens when you militarize the police.
The other thing that comes up for me with this whole rat thing is, I've been in real estate for a little bit. Rats are productive little creatures. They certainly know how to turn on the Luther Vandross, pour a glass of rosé, and
they know how to steal pizza too in New York.
But the thing is that getting rid of rats in buildings is actually not difficult. So one of the things that comes up for me is, if you're complaining about the rats, how well are you doing the rest of your job? Because your property management skills are not ninja grade, that's for sure. Okay, when you secure all of the entrances and exits to a building and then put out rat traps, and the rats cannot get in and out, eventually you will decimate them quicker than they can procreate, and then you have no rats. So I'm like, how did this police department not hire a third-party consultant for 6 figures to tell them which company was the best one for road remediation? And why did that company not get it done?
Louisiana. Real quick, Dale, I want to hear from you about the evidence. Can we talk about that for a second? Allegedly,
you're talking about the mouse droppings?
Testifying. Yeah, they're testifying. They want this new building. They want $7.6 million to be approved for this new building, but they don't want to talk about the evidence that has been destroyed and or tampered with that they have put.
Hold on, but I wonder if it was actually sold and they're just blaming the rats, saying the rats ate it. Maybe the rats is a scapegoat.
Well,
yeah, maybe they smoked it. And they say the rats ate it.
I've represented cops before. And I worked for firms that represented their associations. I've been inside this before. And inside law enforcement's a culture, and outside law enforcement's a culture. And if inside law enforcement, they're still thumping black guys' heads, but the culture around them's telling them to stop, you can get something done. But if the culture around them telling them, we don't give a shit if you thump black guys' heads, we need them to go out there and, hoe that row out there, you're never going to get anything accomplished. And my family's from Mississippi, so I understand that if they don't want to do something and it involves black people, you ain't going to get them to do shit. It's just the truth about what happens in these parts of the world. Now, I don't think cops are bad, but if you don't have someone standing over...
Oh, what happened?
Censorship.
Censorship. Apparently, they're trying to censor Dale. But Johnny Smash says ninjas learn karate from rats.
Did we check on to see what Dale, cameras Dale had?
Dale, you're back.
I'm back.
Yeah. You froze on us for a second.
I criticized the Chinese, so I got,
Oh, that's what that was. Okay. We got to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll into a commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Oh, man, that was weird. Hey, you, America. So I look like Sean Connery. Good morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California with the one and only highest host, Mr. Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out what the Prophet's doing in 2024.
All right, y'all. Up next is High at 9 News' head honcho, known for smoking the best weed in the world and being the highest Republican in every single room that he walks into. And before you get started with your story, Jason, I do have a question. Do you have any updates on the application you put in to become North Carolina's latest deputy out there on the mean streets of North Carolina?
No. Actually, Adam wasn't in, so that application has not been submitted yet. He wasn't in yesterday. That's cute. Yeah.
You missed the deadline.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what's going on. You know what I mean? And lots of numbers, because the number of unlicensed Upper West Side weed shops has jumped 104% since 2022. A brewer survey finds, you guys. That's right. Manhattan's Upper West Side is awash with unlicensed weed shops, and the budding problem continues to grow worse. At least 53 Dellis smoke shops and grocery stores in the uptown neighborhood are hawking marijuana without licenses, you guys, according to a recent block-by-block survey conducted by a crack team of staffers from Councilwoman Gail Brewer's office. I love that they call them a crack team. It's pretty interesting, New York. The survey findings shared exclusively with the Daily News mark a 104% increase over the 26 unlicensed pot shop that Brewer's staff discovered when they conducted a similar survey in late 2022 of the same 54-block radius from West 54th Street to West 108th Street. The latest survey, which was conducted in February, involved the Brewer staffers inquiring about buying weed at 89 local shops that state records show do not hold marijuana sales licenses. The prior survey was conducted in November and December of 2022 using the same methodology. Brewer, a Democrat who represents the Upper West Side, said the continued proliferation of the books cannabis dealing in her backyard should be a clarion call for state lawmakers to beef up the city's marijuana enforcement abilities. She also said she wishes the city would use its existing enforcement powers more aggressively. In quotes, "It's definitely frustrating," Brewer told the News. "We don't understand why they're not closed, why they're not getting padlocked." Probably because then you wouldn't have any other businesses that are open in New York, and you guys would look like a ghost town full of people. But nonetheless, Brewer said she plans to share the tally of unlicensed dispensaries in her district with the state and city authorities in hopes it'll result in more enforcement. She plans to formally unveil the survey results during a press conference on Thursday morning. That would be today, outside Zaza Waza Smoke Shop on Columbus Avenue, one of the retailers on her list that's located around the corner from her district office. The Big Apple's explosion of unlicensed weed sales started shortly after the state legalized adult use marijuana in 2021. While the move made consumption legal, the rollout of New York's licensed weed sales industry has been mired in delays, and there's still only about 24 shops in the city that hold permits to lawfully sell bud, state records show. The foot dragging is setting up a robust legal weed market has created a vacuum for unlicensed shops to crop up, and city officials estimate there are some 1,500 illicit marijuana retailers operating across the 5 boroughs. The problem has been compounded by the fact that the state law currently doesn't allow the city to set its own rules on enforcement against illicit cannabis sales. And Brewer staffers also found, as part of their latest survey, that only only 3 of the 26 unlicensed shops they flagged in their initial 22 canvass have closed down. 2 of them, West Coast Convenience on 72nd Street and Amsterdam Varieties Corp on Amsterdam Avenue, closed up shop last summer as part of a non-prosecution agreement with Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. While the third one, 85 convenience store, recently shuttered for unknown reasons, Brewer's team found that in the meantime, illicit shops have continued to pop up like weeds in Brewer's district. Just in the 4 weeks it took to complete the survey, Brewer staffers found that 3 brand new unlicensed marijuana pushers opened up their doors. This year's state budget is expected to include a measure that would expedite court proceedings against unlicensed weed retailers and authorize local law enforcement agencies like the NYPD and the city sheriff's office to execute directives from the State Office of Cannabis Management to shut down illicit shops. At the moment, though, only state authorities can execute such directives. But Brewer argued that the state's proposal on the table is not going far enough, she says, a view shared by Mayor Adams, since it would still require the city to get state permission to shutter shops. On top of the budget provision, Brewer said a subdivision must be added to state law allowing any cities across New York with more than 1 million residents to write their own laws as it relates to cannabis enforcement. So they're advocating for local control, in quotes. The city council and the mayor should be able to do it, she said. There should be a very fast process to padlock. You always have to have due process, but it can be a fast process, she says. A place can't be fined and then a year later it's still open. There are steps the city should be taking in its own interim, she also argued. She questioned why NYPD isn't taking a more leading role in enforcement against the illicit cannabis retailers. At the moment, Brewer said that's mostly a job carried out by the sheriff's office, but that agency's clip of inspecting suspected unlicensed cannabis stores slowed down last year. And meanwhile, state authorities have failed to collect on millions of dollars in fines levied against marijuana peddling scofflaws, the news outlet the city reported last month. A spokesperson for the mayor said the city has conducted 46,000 cannabis inspections, issued over 17,000 summonses, and collected over $18 million in fines since Adams took office in January of 2022. I'm willing to bet that's not just weed fines, that's all the fines. And the spokesman said the city must get more help from the state, though, in quotes. That's why Mayor Adams has been clear in his call for Albany to give New York the power to shut down these illegal shops, said the spokesperson or spokeswoman Liz Garcia. The administration is continuing to work with the governor's office and to state prosecutors to give municipalities the power to enforce against, inspect, and close illegal dispensaries more quickly and efficiently. And asked about Brewer's proposal for more city autonomy, Avi Small, a spokesperson for Governor Hochul's office, said the governor supports letting the city carry out its own cannabis enforcement. Her budget proposal authorizing localities to swiftly and permanently close unlicensed shops is the most effective way to get the job done, Small said. Besides quality of life concerns connected with unlicensed weed shops, Brewer said she's worried that letting them go unchecked is hampering the few retailers that have actually obtained licenses to sell marijuana legally. The ones that are licensed are being hurt by those shops, she says. Well, I mean, this is nothing that none of us didn't know. I can't believe that they're just figuring this all out. But nonetheless, man, this is so hilarious. New York, you're the gift that keeps on giving. Thank you all so much. This is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News. What do y'all think about this?
Sad for my city. Breaking my heart.
Why is it
at the end of the end, because you know what? It's like, it just shows you the level of incompetence that New Yorkers deal with every day. Hochul wants to padlock doors.
No. This is the councilwoman.
This
is the councilwoman that wants to padlock the doors, and then she's saying that the state needs to make it easier.
No, but Hochul said it too. Hochul said it too. Hochul said it too. Not just her. Hochul said it too. Adams said he's not going to enforce it. Braggs allows illegal aliens to kick police officers in their head. I've never seen a New Yorker get away with kicking a police officer and he didn't get killed. But Braggs let illegals kick police officers in the head, give them no bail, and they're worrying about weed shops?
crazy, right?
They're worried about weed shops. You have people on scooters doing stick-ups and robbing little kids and illegals, I'm sorry, on scooters. Gangs of illegals on scooters. So much to the point now where they just impounding new scooters every single day. And then look, New York City is giving the scooters back to the individuals that they're impounding them from once they find out that the individuals are illegal. And then these gang members go right back outside and start robbing people again. And we're worried about marijuana shops. This is the reason why New Yorkers are getting what they deserve, because they voted for this.
This is a no shit Sherlock moment, you know.
I knew that Dale was going to use the word excrement.
Yeah. It's like, come on, can we require that anybody going into politics understand sociology and criminal justice 101? People want something. You can't make it illegal and enforce it. That's the bottom line. And it's like, dude, this is stupid. It's the definition of insanity, doing the same damn thing over and over again, expecting some different result. If someone's making bank in a trap shop, they're not going to just go padlock because, Hochul told me I'm doing a bad thing, I should stop. What the fuck are you smoking? Come on, stop.
Not to mention, Dale, that shouldn't be a reason to just lock their business up. A lot of these are other different types of businesses that are selling weed in addition to the normal goods that they sell and provide to their community.
Well, so, we have to talk about due process there. And the thing that's most deceptive about this article is when it talks about the amount of fines they've collected. What it didn't talk about was what we covered on this show a couple weeks ago about the percentage of fines they've collected for unlicensed cannabis activity relative to the dollar amount of the fines that they've levied.
I mentioned that when I read it.
24 million. It was 24 million that they've issued in fines, and they've collected less than 24,000. They need to hire those postal workers that were being bribed that we covered a couple days ago to go out and enforce and collect.
Carolina postal
and
guy.
South Carolina.
So this thing about the local control, here's what's so mind-numbing for me. It's a classic finger-pointing maneuver to say, I could have done a better job, but my hands were tied because I didn't have local control. Then, in the same article and in the same breath, they said, and by the way, I need more money from the state. Okay, give me more money, and you're the one in my way, right? And we know that there are a lot of things that cities allow states to do because states do it better. Just like states know there are a lot of things the federal government does because the federal government does it better. And so this idea that that's the reason, or the reason why they're not being able to be more effective, I just think is really sus at best. And to Tony's point, sometimes it's not about whether the issue has merit. It's about where on the hierarchy of issues are we placing this concern. And so when we have bigger issues and they're not getting the coverage or being righteously amplified in order to be able to figure out how we get some solution around that, then it's not a question of whether what somebody is saying is accurate. And the question then becomes, well, why are we talking about that? And so I really appreciate how Tony pointed that out.
So I got a couple of things here. So number one, Eric Adams, he has all these corruption inquiries and these investigations into his own cabinet, all of his people going on right there.
So good.
And he is he's very much taken. He's very much looking like a Republican right now. Looking at the state of New York is more like the federal jurisdiction, and New York City is he's trying to get his state's rights, and he's like, y'all got to fix this. This is y'all's problem, y'all's problem, and he's eating right here, right? Like he is eating. He's having fun. He's out there doing what he does, not doing nothing. And you know what? The man is against him right now. He's just living life. So
I'm just,
shout out to the trap in New York. They're going to keep on winning. And I expect, unlicensed Upper West Side weed shops to increase another 200% over the next 12 months. They're just going to keep on going, man.
Exactly.
There's no end to the trap in New York City.
It seems like to me it's so funny that they're making such a big deal about all of these trap shops. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure that they can probably find like some trap shop that's related to Trump or some Trump property somewhere in New York, and then tie that in and be able to prosecute them that way, because the only people that they try to prosecute in New York is Trump.
I want to see, it'd be poetic justice if Trump's building in New York just gets turned into housing for all of the migrants.
Trump ain't gonna allow that.
Just put all the migrants in Trump Tower.
He ain't gonna allow that.
And they prosecuted more than Trump, didn't they? Do Giuliani and some of the other versions of his crew? They prosecuted
it's
that.
It's all Trump.
You got to look at it. You got to look at it for what it is. Look, you have to look at it for what it is. For anyone,
right? Only 1/3 of his crew has been prosecuted.
For anyone in real estate, this is one of the scariest things ever. And for me to have,
he's in real estate. Yarrow can talk
for me
about
to have, for me to have land and property and investments in New York, for these people to come and be able to say, because you have to understand something. When I go to purchase land in New York or from anywhere, the owner says this is what it's valued as. Then my banker goes in and does an appraisal on the property. My banker then tells me it's not so much this, it's probably worth this, or maybe my banker may say it's worth more. You're getting a deal. This person is, so then you have people who come then there after the fact, years after the fact, and they can say, no, this is what I believe. They're not even involved in real estate. Like, I mean, we can make this like a joke, but I'm a rich person.
Tony, I feel you. Let's keep this on the.
We're gonna keep this. Yeah,
because we're gonna dive into.
Real quick, you guys.
We're way over time. We're way over time too.
I'm sorry, but if you're black, it's going to be very difficult for you want to purchase anything knowing that these people can do this to you because what they've been doing to us already. And that's the only thing I'm trying to say is like, we got to be mindful of that.
That's fair.
That's fair. I mean, turn me as a black voter. You're not going to turn me to a Trump supporter.
And Kevin O'Leary.
As long as you're my supporter, that's all that matters.
Yep. Kevin O'Leary outlined it very well what New York is doing on the real estate world in regards to this. But we're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right into Mr. Attorney Dale Schafer. He's the founder of Armada Law Practice, and at one point in time did some time for a cannabis crime. And oh man, I can't wait to hear this story he has today. Oh man, we're sipping tea all day today. Man, oh man, that's right. It is Mr. Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We've had heated discussions already about problems that are like, when did you learn this was a problem? Like when you were born? Okay. Well, yesterday I brought forth a story that involved due diligence on the knuckleheads you get involved in. It was the Dan Bilzerian. You should have done some due diligence before you got into bed with that guy, because he's going to try to screw you, and kind of got spanked by a federal judge. Today's story involves True Leaf out of Florida, and it seems that they hired a CFO. I think they might have done some due diligence on the guy. His name is Andrew D'Amico, I think's his name. And it turns out that Andy was, is that me?
No, you're good, Dale. Keep
Chinese
on.
Wrap me again. I got to stop criticizing the Chinese government. Anyway, this guy D'Amico was a consultant. True Leaf is a Canadian stock company. So when you come to the United States, you have to follow SEC rules. This guy was a consultant to follow SEC rules. They hired him in 2020 to be their CFO. And this guy was given a company credit card. He had a reimbursement account that if he spent money, he could get reimbursed for it. And he was in charge of overseeing the filings for the SEC, and also to report to the board about how money was being handled in the company. And if this is a complaint, so I want to just make sure that I say that these are allegations against him. But if they're true, it is truly hiring the fox to watch the hen house. Because they're claiming that between June or July of 2020 up until the end of last year, or maybe the middle of last year, so basically 3 years, the guy embezzled basically $350,000 to $400,000, and he did it by putting things on his company card that were not approved. In some cases, now this is allegedly, by buying something on a company credit card and then seeking reimbursement for the same thing as if he had spent his own money, and he was double dipping. And in one case, he paid $26,000 for some consulting course or some bullshit like that. And the companies took a look at it and said, first of all, we never approved this, and I don't think they do what you claim they did. So my story here is that even if you do due diligence, and Yarrow, you've been around human beings, involved with large transactions enough to know that if you put money out in front of people, certain people will grab a handful of it as it goes by. And I've been involved with enough corporations and LLCs, and either the CEO, CFO, or the managing member or whatever. You put way too much money in front of them, and there isn't a lot of accountability, and some of it makes its way into their pockets. Okay, so it looks like Trulieve had tried to set up an audit committee, which they're required to do under SEC rules, but I don't know how much oversight they were actually doing. And it seems that last year in July, somebody got word that this guy was doing some hanky-panky, and the audit committee hired an outside law firm, and they started sniffing around, stuck a microscope up his ass, and he could not justify what he'd be doing. So he decided he was going to resign without good cause rather than being terminated for cause, which would give him a black mark in the industry. And he immediately signed on with some other company as their CFO. And when they announced publicly that, what the accounting was, what they looked like he had done, and that he had, resigned, this other company decided they're going to part company too. So I guess they were doing some due diligence on the guy. I think the big story here is no matter how much due diligence you do, you're going to find scandalous people that are going to work for you, and you need to have internal controls and internal reviews to catch them before it gets too bad. Because unfortunately, human beings in significant numbers will lie, cheat, and steal. So you need to be very careful. Due diligence before you bring them in, but when they're there, watch them. Because people will get sticky fingers and steal your shit. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to throw it back at you guys. What do you think about this? And it's Trulieve. They own Florida now. So
just to make sure that I'm understanding this all correctly, Dale, Trulieve, Kim Rivers, is alleging that the CFO made all of these unwarranted, unapproved charges, but he was the CFO. Mm-hmm. He's the one that's supposed to make all the charges.
Well, but see, if you put in place parameters on what you can charge and how much and how you justify them, and he's the guy that checks the boxes that it's approved, and he's doing things that should not be approved, I think that's the situation we find here. What he was doing was skimming. And he skimmed just enough so he wasn't going to get caught because he's in some sort of, general review parameters. But when they finally started looking hard, he didn't have an explanation for why you're going to Nordstrom's and buying, clothes for yourself, or, going and buying groceries and going out to lunch a half mile from your house multiple times, claiming it's credit for the business.
Man, oh man, oh man. I love this story. I mean, you got Trulieve, who is recently got that big tax credit, right? But we all know that tax credit, they were trying to pawn it off as like, hey, we figured something out with 280E, but really that was just from their THCA sales. Now they're trying to monopolize the THCA market in Florida by eliminating all of the CBD shops throughout all of Florida and making it so you have to buy all of that stuff through one of the medical cannabis retailers out there in Florida. And man, oh man, then now this, Dale. I mean,
people are scandalous, dude. People are scandalous.
Trulieve is almost like New York.
I don't blame them. I mean, I think that all companies need to have systems of checks and balances and a little redundant oversight when it comes to the handling of money. So I guess in that respect, I would say their SOPs might have been a little on the lacking side. And on the other hand, to Dale's point around how there's human nature, I just don't know that a company this big could totally insulate itself from the shortcomings of some people's moral character. And the thing that I like about money is money does show people's true colors. And we know that from the legacy space, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody gets a lot of money, their head gets big. Next thing you know, they think they're God's gift to everything. Takes sometimes a little humility, but like money will show people's true colors. When there's a big pot of gold on the table, you figure out pretty quickly who's about what they say and who's about just trying to get away till tomorrow. And so this guy in a position of responsibility, either his true colors were shown or his true colors changed. I don't know that I would totally hold it against Trulieve. I think clearly they're going after him to hold him accountable. Maybe they get to claw back some of that in some sort of recovery or restitution.
I have a thought on this, Yarrow. I have a thought on this.
Yeah.
So this CFO, if I remember correctly, throughout Truliev's history, this is the same CFO, Dale, that was in place when Kim Rivers' husband was arrested and prosecuted and convicted of bribery and a few other charges. Am I correct on this?
Well, I don't know the time frame. So this guy was in 2020.
That's what I'm saying. That this is the same. This is the same guy that was a CFO during that time, and so he was playing funneling with the money. I bet you something happened, and he has some kind of dirt on them. I'm willing to bet. And then they got into a tuffle in regards to about it, and so now this lawsuit is coming out, and I think they're using that to deflect against what he may possibly say in a rebuttal against this. I think there's going to be a counterclaim against this, Dale.
Well, we'll see, because this is just a complaint, and he's going to respond, and they want attorney's fees because it's part of his employment contract. So we'll see if this guy actually has the money.
I think he's going to get more than the money. I think this guy's going to get more than the money. I definitely think this guy is going to get more.
Because everyone that I've ever been involved in, somebody's got some dirt. A lot of people have dirt on a lot of people. Just trying to figure out whether we want it coming out in a litigation or not.
I just don't understand, unless if you're a large company like that, at some point there's always going to be a paper trail for malfeasance. I suppose if you really think you're at the top and you can sweep your own footprints away quicker than someone can find them. But I mean, if you left the breadcrumbs, then Rico gonna get in trouble.
Rico, you have a quick thought on this Trulieve situation, bro? So it's Trulieve, the CEO versus the CFO, or the former CFO. And I'm willing to bet, bro, that this is the same CFO that was in place during the conviction of her husband for the bribery charges.
I heard that he was going to say that it was the rats from Louisiana that came down and ate the money.
Oh, man.
It was the rat turds on his desk. It gave him amnesia. He couldn't remember. Yeah.
It's always the rats. You know, I mean, it's going to get messier. You know that was going to come back around. When we covered that story, 2 years ago?
Exactly.
Chickens coming to roost, man. From the DeSantis money. To all this stuff coming out, expect a lot more to be revealed ahead of the November ballot.
Oh, that's going to be our November surprise. Big old November surprise.
Yeah, a lot more is going to come out. And I don't know, man. I don't know. It's going to get sticky.
I love it.
I mean, it's Florida. It's the epicenter of fraud and corruption, isn't it, Jason?
No, that's Washington, D.C. whenever Biden's there. Otherwise, it's Delaware.
It's Florida. We should just worry about Disney, right?
No. I mean, Disney needs to be worried about. But nonetheless, we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
Up next, we have this.
Oh, you want to go? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Keep going, Jason.
All right.
We're at halftime?
Yeah. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the stories that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. And Hall of Flowers, we will see you later today.
I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smoky Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get yourself a stretch and smoke with Smoky Vanilla.
That's right, baby. I'm Smoky Vanilla with my background in kinesiology. I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on athletes who have chronic pain or injury due to their sport, or the legends of the chronic in the game, baby.
Oh, yeah, you know what it is. We just stretched and now we're gonna smoke, because you know what it is.
That's right. I love intuitively creating a session based on the individual I'm working with. We'll go through a few assessments, look at the past health history, injury, or anything that's still affecting you today, and create a customized session just for you. Let's go.
Do some John Travolta shit.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Woody Harrelson's dunk in White Man Can't Jump was garbage.
We're back.
Garbage.
We're back. Rico, we're back.
Let's do it. So up next, we've got a second-generation cultivator, founder of Special Teams Consulting, known also as the Sebastopol Sage, and there's no way he is going to be deleting his TikTok account because he's all about that fine china. Y'all know who it is. Yarrow Kubrin.
Also known as the second dopest dad.
He's your number two,
Good morning.
Rico?
Good morning. High at 9 News viewers. Thursday, March 14th. Pleasure to be here with these other esteemed panelists and guests. My article today is from Bloomberg Law, and it is Cannabis Industry Mandates to Stay Union Neutral Come Up Short. Published today by Parker Perfoy. 8 states require or encourage labor peace agreements, and union leaders say enforcement so far hasn't been sufficient. As more states legalize marijuana, unions are crying foul over loopholes and a lack of enforcement that has kept state-backed labor peace deals from delivering the promised boon of organizing the industry. Out of the 25 states that have made recreational marijuana distribution legal, 8 have laws that either require or incentivize employers to sign labor peace agreements. Several other states, including Oregon and Massachusetts, are considering such measures either in legislation or ballot initiatives. Only a few states have, with LPAs, or labor peace agreements, in place, including California and New Jersey, have issued penalties against employers for violating it, like when companies made deals with fake unions. This low enforcement contrasts with labor leaders reporting violations in the field. Such peace agreements typically require employers to stay neutral on unionization and allow labor organizations access to the workplace, said Esta Bigler, director of Cornell University's Labor and Employment Law Program and co-chair of the Cannabis Workforce Initiative. In turn, unions usually agree not to call a strike. This doesn't mean you have to collective bargaining agreement. It doesn't mean your workers are going to unionize, Bigler said. It only means that workers have more space to decide what they want without fear or retaliation from their employer. Robert Solomon, an economics professor at University of California, Irvine, said the states have to step up their enforcement for the LPAs to have the desired effect. Anything that's going to have an impact on workers will have to come through regulation and enforcement of regulation, or with goodwill on both sides, he said. The whole idea of an LPA is to have goodwill on both sides, and labor management hasn't always operated from that place. Inconsistent results. LPAs are necessary to provide stability in an industry that's still finding its footing, said Jim Araby, the strategic campaign manager for United Food and Commercial Worker Union Local 5 in San Francisco. We wanted to create ongoing standards for the industry, and we knew that we had to be established from the very beginning, said Araby, who served on a 2014 California State Task Force to help legalize medical marijuana. There are a few times in history where you have labor and businesses working together to create an industry. So since we helped bring this about on the legal side, we wanted to make sure we were setting up workers for success. California law now requires an employer in the cannabis industry with more than 20 full-time workers to have and maintain a peace agreement with a bona fide union in order to get a license. The law also says employers need to fulfill the requirements with a notarized statement saying they will enter into an agreement. But Araby said results have been conclusive. You can get a license and just never actually sign the peace agreement, he said. There are some companies that we have who really strong relationships with, but the overall effectiveness of the peace agreements, I'd give it an incomplete. Room to grow. Matthew Lee, general counsel for California's Department of Cannabis Control, says unions and workers can file complaints with the state's Agricultural Labor Relations Board if they believe an employer is violating the law. The ALRB is tasked with enforcing the state's agricultural labor laws, which include the marijuana industry. Lee said the policy has room to grow. On the face of the statute, he said whether or how employers need to get into an LPA after submitting a notarized statement, and, quote, how we follow up on that is not immediately obvious, unquote. So as we look at ways to further refine the state's labor peace agreement requirements, I suspect that's an issue worth looking at, he said. Jim Gilco, president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters Local 777 in Illinois, said unions are also facing a similar issue. Illinois doesn't require LPAs, but instead gives employers in the cannabis industry more points on the licensing process if they have an agreement. Companies vying for a license get points that contribute to their applications, including those for having local ownership, giving back to the community, or having an LPA. Businesses with the most points will be granted licenses first. There's just no enforcement, he said. I've seen so many cases where companies sign the labor peace agreement and then do whatever they want. We prefer to build our campaign from the ground up, so we have strong backing before going to an LPA. William Bogat, get it, Bogat? Co-chair Fox Rothschild's cannabis law practice, said his clients in states with LPA mandates are typically eager to enter into the deals so they can get their licenses, but employers should be wise to examine the details of the agreement and the unions involved before signing, he said. Don't just sign with the first union that comes along. Not all unions are created equal, Bogat said. You want to pick ones that have prior experience in the industry and establish themselves a little bit. Bogus unions. Among the few enforcement actions the states have undertaken, New Jersey's Cannabis Regulation Commission in July 2023 ordered Columbia Care to sign and maintain its LPA with the Teamsters Union or risk facing fines starting at $50,000. And the California ALRB has issued only 2 decisions related to peace agreements, both targeting illegitimate, bogus unions that have no intention of representing or organizing workers. Unions have long accused cannabis businesses of creating or turning to the fake unions to make it look like they're complying with the licensing requirements. In July and October, the ALRB found that the Professional Technical Union Local 33 and the National Agricultural Workers Union weren't actually unions. ProTech and NAWU have signed over 20 peace agreements with some of the biggest companies in the state, including Cannabis, Glasshouse Brands, and Herbal. Herbal's not here. Update your reporting. Yet ProTech failed to respond to basic inquiries about the LPA it had signed with the Palm Springs dispensary and has no offices or representatives based in California, the board said. NAWU also failed to sign one with a bona fide union or risk losing their license. These decisions followed years of pressure on the ALRB to take action against fake unions, Araby said. Employers have always tried to find ways around regulation, and it's kind of like whack-a-mole because there's plenty of fake unions out there, he said. So, this is Yarrow Kubrin. I'm going to hold fire. I want to hear what my other esteemed panelists and guests want to say and have to think about my long-winded article today.
I just have to say that I think unions don't deliver enough of what they should for cannabis companies, and cannabis companies pay them way too much money. So I am not pro-union when it comes with any cannabis company, with any of these unions. And Dale, to your point earlier, I'm not in favor of the police unions either.
You saying all cannabis unions, Jason, or are you just saying the ones that you've encountered?
Until I encounter one that I think that makes sense and is actually doing a value for their unionites. Yeah, all of them, blanket.
Well, I represent companies that are faced with this conundrum. Once you get to 20 employees, you got to have an LBA signed and at least on file with the local permitting and the state organizations. And in my background, my grandfather was a Teamster, so I'm really not looking into crossing, picket lines and button heads with organized labor. But the company he worked for was a large company. My other grandfather owned small businesses, and he couldn't afford to pay much more than minimum wage and keep things running. So in between that, I deal with companies who are scrambling just to pay the bills. What they're afraid is if they lose control of their employees' wages, like tends to happen when unions come in, they want to be in a driver's seat to get wages and benefits, which cost the company money. And they're looking for ways to get out of that. And there are a lot of creative loopholes you can find. I move them into management companies. I don't like plant-touching businesses to have a lot of employees because of 280E. So there's a benefit to staying away from these LPAs, taking effect. But there isn't a good answer right now, because even if you have 100 employees, that doesn't mean you're making very much money in this industry right now. And that's the conundrum you're putting a business into. They want to control their bottom line, and they're afraid that the unions will take control of that away from them. And many of them can't afford it. So the loopholes are there, and they're going to look for them. It's just the reality I deal with on a daily here.
Yeah, there's gotta be a cutoff. Because smaller businesses, from what I've seen, both in mainstream and in cannabis, like they don't really benefit as much from them. But there's large businesses like True Leave in Massachusetts, they would 100% have benefited from a union in that situation, and a lot of the workers would have been protected. Unfortunate event went down, they would have been protected in that case. And these cannabis companies, especially because it's still federally illegal, they're doing a lot of stuff, skirting rules that regular companies are not doing, and people are just not protected, and they're getting caught up in the hype of the cannabis industry, want to get a job in the industry, and it pays a little bit better than regular jobs, but you're not protected, and these companies are just, they're companies. No matter what Mitt Romney tries to say, and no matter what it's federally classified as a quote person, they're not people. The purpose of a company, purpose of a corporation is to make money, not to protect you and not to have your best interests in mind. Mm-hmm. So that's my take, man.
So both my parents were the shop stewards for their union. Both my parents put in decades of service with local government, my mom with federal government. I recognize that unions in this country are a byproduct of not having worker protections. And I recognize that over the last 40 or 50 years, there has been a concerted effort to diminish the influence and participation in unions. And if unions want to have a place in regulated cannabis, then they need to step on the necks of politicians and policymakers and demonstrate their contribution to the industry first by helping to enact tax reform. Because until the taxes are lowered, there's no room on the pie chart for the cost of unions, no matter what the benefit to employees are, because there's nothing left. And so I think we have this chicken and the egg thing. Like, unions want to have membership and want to have dues, want to have influence, and want to have a position at the table in order to flex that political power. And the industry says, well, if you've got this political power, flex it now so we can get some tax relief, so there's room for you guys to eat. And I think the other thing that's challenging, and I know Jim Araby, I got nothing against the guy. Hey, he wrote me a letter of support when I went after my permit in San Francisco. So thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. Little social equity guy like myself always appreciates a nice letter with that kind of logo at the bottom.
Did you just call yourself a little guy?
Support.
You just called yourself a little guy.
Just a small fish in a big pond, swimming around like a little goldfish.
Yarrow's all about that socialist equity. He would be pro union, right, Jason?
Exactly.
but let me criticize the union's attempts to participate in the industry for a second here in California, at least. And also I think in New York, but New York, again, I don't want to beat up on the redheaded stepchild. Unions have focused too much on unionizing retail workers and not at all on farm workers and industrial workers. And what's challenging for me about that is that we know that the highest percentage of occupational injuries and accidents are in industrialized settings, warehouses. And so if you want to provide worker benefit, worker protections is the obvious low-hanging fruit. And I don't see attempts at unionizing industrial cannabis workers and agricultural cannabis workers. And when you need to harvest something and bud rot is in and the rain is coming and you need to get that off the vine and you need to have everybody there and working overtime and hopefully well caffeinated and well illuminated and well ventilated and well rested, it seems to me that the unions are really missing out on an opportunity to provide a union benefit across the entire supply chain. And with that, maybe ingratiate themselves into the industry. But again, at the end of the day, until they can help with tax reform, I don't see how there's any room for them.
Can I ask the experts here, what union in marijuana would you trust, Jason?
Absolutely none of them.
Scam.
None of them.
The only union I ever see fighting for anybody is the police union. Every other union I've seen collects money and does absolutely nothing.
Yep, they
do. They fight for people.
They fight for people.
They do, and they've raised a lot of awareness nationwide. And I know that on the East Coast, specifically in New York and New Jersey, they're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to get people what they want, to get the actual cannabis community what they want. Obviously, it hasn't all panned out there, so we don't know how the end result is going to look. But we have had a lot of scam unions out here in not just Los Angeles, in California. We've reported on them. It's unfortunate. And when you're dealing with a developing system, you're going to have a lot of people out there that are scamming folks, unfortunately. But,
I mean, you've never heard of the Terpene Teamsters? That's an amazing union.
Oh, boy.
Right. But Yarrow, you brought up an excellent point about the agricultural workers, and that's in mainstream America, too. I always say the cannabis industry is a microcosm of the greater United States of America. I'm driving up the 405, this parking lot of a freeway right now, up to Ventura right now. Before I get to Ventura, I'm gonna see all of these strawberry fields and everything, and all these poor workers are undocumented on the side of the road. They're not unionized, but they're supplying America with the greatest produce in the world.
By California strawberries.
It's a huge issue. It's a huge issue across the board. So I think you brought up a really, really great point there.
If we think about the history of organized labor in California specifically, because we may not be the manufacturing powerhouse of the country, but we have been the agricultural powerhouse in many respects of the world. Thank you very much. Right. Somebody drop a mic. When we think about the history of organized labor in California, you can't think about that without thinking about Cesar Chavez and the grape workers. Yeah. And I live in the wine country, and I love what the wine industry does in terms of tourism and making this a destination, and how fun it is to go. Come on, who doesn't like a charcuterie plate with a little bit of Sauvignon Blanc on the side while you're bouncing around West County, right? This is a beautiful place to live.
Oh, yes, he does.
She went to Napa, not Sonoma. I'm not sure that we would have had her. But anyway, when I think about organized labor in California, our tourism, some of our important agricultural products, it all folds into this conversation. And so if the unions aren't going after farm workers, and if this is an agricultural product, I have to stop and scratch my head and wonder, why not?
Exactly. Yeah. Why not? And we should be focused on weed for the people, you guys. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back. Get ready for the 20-year anniversary celebration of the Emerald Cup. The Emerald Cup will be held at the Henry J. Kaiser Center for the Arts in downtown Oakland, May 4th and 5th. Get your tickets now for best pricing. Cannabis categories include flower, pre-rolls, solventless concentrates, solvent concentrates, cartridges, edibles, topicals, tinctures, and alternative cannabinoids. So enter early for your chance to be a winner at the 20-year anniversary Emerald Cup competition. We're back, guys.
We are back. So up next, we have the most feared black Latin man alive, representing the great purple state of Texas by way of Brooklyn, New York. The man, the myth, the legend, who may or may not have, had Hunter Biden as one of his customers. I don't know. I can't call it.
Definitely.
But he can. Y'all know who it is. Coming to the stage, my man, Antoine, Montaga. What you got for us today, my brother?
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, because somewhere around the world it is truly what time it is. And I and the rest of my hosts here are thankful that you guys chose to tune in and watch. Today we have Mobile County Sheriff's Office announces operation in Up in Smoke targeting public marijuana use. This story was sent to me by our fearless leader, Jason Beck, not the Jason Beck known, currently and exposed by Project Veritas.
Definitely not that one. Definitely not that one.
The open use of marijuana has become, I'll tell you when it's over.
Oh, bro, we'll show you. We'll send you the video.
Marijuana has become common in several public areas throughout Mobile County. We witness this during Mardi Gras and see it at grocery stores and all major shopping centers. The Mobile County Sheriff's Office has received numerous complaints from concerned citizens throughout Mobile County. If you choose to consume illegal drugs, including marijuana, it's not a drug, in public or in a vehicle, especially when occupied by children, you will be arrested. As of today, March 12, 2024, the Mobile County Sheriff's Office will immediately begin Operation Up in Smoke throughout Mobile County, including municipalities within Mobile County. If you choose to consume marijuana in the confines of your home, and we do not condone that you do, that is a risk you choose to take. This operation is about the public outcry of others who do not wish to participate or expose their families to illegal drugs. Marijuana is not legal anywhere in the state of Alabama and has not been legalized federally. This purposeful disregard for obeying the law will not be tolerated in Mobile County. Now, I just will say this indirect threat is, if you choose to consume marijuana in the confines of your home, and we do not condone that you do, that is a risk you choose to take. So now what are we getting at here with Mobile County? So now they're saying, okay, you're in your car, it's not legal. Okay, fine, I understand. You know, you guys want to do this, but now they're saying that they indirectly, I believe from this article, is saying that if you choose to smoke it in your homes, we don't condone that because we could possibly be coming there too. Tell me what you guys think. I think this is far overreach, and I think that we have more things to worry about in Mobile County, such as poverty, such as the infrastructure of the area, and I think that we're nitpicking here. And I honestly seen another story where the sheriff said he was actually thinking about it because of a question by his daughter. So you guys tell me what you think.
Man, sounds like he's getting ready for a crackdown going down in Mobile County out there. And that's in Louisiana, isn't it?
Alabama.
It's Louisiana. It's Alabama.
Alabama. Okay. All right. Alabama, man, bro. It's
slave states.
Have they really been having all kinds of sessions and whatnot? Because it seems like he's targeting like this in particular, like an in particular venue that's hosting these types of parties.
You know, it doesn't really say that. It's just saying right now, it's just saying that it's just people who are out in public, people who are at stores, or people who are in front of the mall, and they're saying that they're smelling it. And I just think that this is because there's another story that I seen in regards to this, where it gave me an innuendo that if it wasn't for the sheriff's daughter, then he wouldn't even have thought about it. You know, it says Mobile County Sheriff says daughter's question prompt marijuana crackdown initiative. Mobile, Alabama, an initiative announced Tuesday cracking down on marijuana use in public places. Places came after months of complaints, according to Mobile County Sheriff's Paul Birch. The sheriff said he had personal experience with the assault of marijuana odor, including during a recent family outing at an entertainment venue in Mobile. One of the questions I got from my daughter not too long ago was, she knows what the smell is now, he said. And she's like, well, you're the sheriff. Why don't you arrest him? And so that'll get you, that'll get your attention. That'll really, that really was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I just believe that that's BS.
She gaslighted her dad.
Yeah, the use of assault because you smelled weed. Mm-hmm. You see, that's at the heart of the problem here. Oh, I don't want to have to smell weed. It doesn't set well with me. So we're going to go out and enforce against people who smoke weed. That's the problem.
What about all the farms that you smell shit on? Exactly. And I don't want to smell shit. So do I go and just shut down the farms?
It's crazy.
Shut down the police department in Louisiana.
They refuse to call this an agricultural product. So it's like the game's being played. It's a change in culture. You know, these old guys don't want to smell weed. Well, for those of us that smoke weed, it's like, that don't smell bad. For those that don't, this is an assault. It's a harmful or offensive touching to my nose to have to smell this, and my culture's changing, and therefore I'm going to get my butt hurt, and I'm going to go out and, and I think you're right, Tony. The smell of weed has sent the cops doing a lot of things over the last decades. And if they're concerned you're going to smoke weed around your kid in a car, what's going to stop them from finding exigent circumstances? Oh, you're smoking weed in your house and the kid's in there.
Mm-hmm.
And not just that, This is just a disguise for, I smell weed, I need to check your car. This is just a disguise for, I smell weed on your person, I need to check your person.
Yep.
That's what this is. This is just setting up for them to have the ability to violate people's constitutional rights off of the fictitious notion of marijuana smell. Dead skunk smells like to marijuana too.
I have a question. I have a question for you guys. Do you think, because he has the ability to do this, whether he wants to make this statement publicly or not, do you think it's at least nice that he's at least letting the community know that he's getting ready to do this?
I can't hold back anymore. I gotta chime in.
Go ahead, Yarrow.
The coffee is overflowing. Okay, so so there was this quote in the article from this lady, Virginia Guy, executive director of the Drug Education Council, and she says, when folks are smoking marijuana in public, it gives impressions to young people that it's normalized and that everybody's doing it, she told Fox. So we want to normalize it so that young people aren't doing it. We want to make this not something that feels like it's a rebellious act. And then we need to make sure that we have a single standard when it comes to smoke, whether it's from a cigar, whether it's from a cannagar, whether it's from a cigarette, whether it's from a joint. Look, I don't like the smell of tobacco smoke, but I recognize that my brethren and sisterin on the tobacco side of the aisle have the right to have a nice smoke after they go out to a restaurant and should be able to smoke a cigarette. And so, and there's a smell to that where if it's too close to me, I'm like, oh, come on, man, I'm not smoking your cigarette. And then there's a smell that I'm like, okay, this is public. I got to share this with the rest of my community. So I think there's a singular standard, and that singular standard telegraphs a destigmatization of cannabis when it is treated like any other smoke. And the other thing also is, in this article, it talked about giving people tickets. So if you smoke a cigarette in the wrong place, they're not taking you to jail, right? So if you smoke a joint in the wrong place, there should have a similar consequence. Is it a nuisance to other community members who don't want to smell it? Yes. And what should the consequence be? And if we have those consequences be congruent, then we've got destigmatization and we've got the plant being treated like other plants. And that's where I think we
need to not worry about the descheduling to a level 3 BS. We need to just make it legal, federal wise. The federal government is just to decriminalize marijuana all the way. Then we let the states decide on their own, and then we're able to actually force the legislative body to actually do something within the states to make sure that people's rights aren't being violated. This is just a precursor to people having the ability to stop random people at will and use the lie that they smell marijuana. And you know what's going to happen to the people in Alabama. They're not full of rich people. There are not a lot of people who have a ton of influence there. I can only imagine that there will be a lot of people who will be victimized.
Prohibition 3.0, because he says they're going to have a zero tolerance policy, and he says that then they're going to tow your car, which is that they're going to try to create additional impact on the person, and all of that, and the hundreds, almost 300 arrests they had last year just for simple marijuana possession or for consumption. All of that resources, if they put it into ticketing and fines and they collect that money better than New York collects its fines, it's just a simple cost-benefit public policy lens. What is the cost of towing all those cars? What is the cost of the officers to call the tow company? What is the cost to the community to get their car out of impound because they smoked cannabis? Does that help the economy? Does that help them get to the job, the mid-level service job they have to be at on Monday morning in order to keep your hotel running? It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense, and it's not going to help. It's not going to help business. It's not going to be progress.
Yeah, bro, look, they don't care about helping business. They don't care about helping the everyday common person, because if they did, and I'm telling you now, there wouldn't be an issue with the smell of marijuana. And I know it's illegal. So they'll be like, oh, it's illegal or whatever. But you can smell a dead skunk on a road, and it smells like weed. Like, I'm just telling you, like, the odor is similar to other things that are out there. So it's just like they're going to use this as a reason to violate people's rights. Doesn't matter what color they are. If they're in Alabama, they're predominantly poor, and they're going to have their rights violated.
That's facts. That is
facts, and the poor are the ones that are going to suffer the most.
That's facts. I totally agree.
America.
100%.
All right, so I got this one.
Let's go, Jason.
All right, I got this one last one. We're way over time, but I think this is some pretty important information. Yeah.
You're the boss. Come on, stop that. Just go, so what?
Yes, I like to say it. You guys got a problem with me?
Hey, if we're overtime, can I unionize and get a little bit of extra? For the fact that
I'm totally against unions, and anyone that wants to unionize over here, they just bye.
Hey, if we have a union on High at 9 News, it has to be like, because these unions have numbers at the end. It has to be like 99999 just to like play on the fact that that's our name.
That's cute.
I'm unionizing your staff, bro.
That's cute.
And then I'm gonna create a digital picket line.
Oh, that's great. That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome.
For everybody.
We're gonna call it. We're gonna geofence your picket line. But nonetheless, you guys, there's some big news. Marijuana use and involvement in the new security clearance questionnaire for all of you that want to be government employees. In a few months, the online version of the personnel vetting questionnaire, the PVQ, should go live for use by everyone who needs and is sponsored for a clearance to do work on behalf of the federal government. By clearance, I mean eligibility under standards for basic federal employment, sustainability, or fitness. Homeland Security Presidential Directive 12, credentialing public trust positions and sensitive national security positions, the PVQ, replaces the standard forms SF 85, 85P, 85P-S, and 86, which people applying for these types of positions are required to complete. The final version of the PVQ was approved in November of 2023 and has 4 parts, A, B, C, and D. All applicants will have to complete Part A, depending on the type of position eligibility required. Some applicants, you will also have to complete other parts of the form. Only Part A has drug questions. Each section of Part A has threshold questions. If an applicant answers yes to a threshold question, they need to follow up and answer questions called branching questions. Some branching questions have their own follow-up questions as Part A can be downloaded here on our website. But I'm just going to kind of go into this. Section 13, use of other involvement with marijuana. Section 13 has 4 threshold questions which appear in the italics below, and here we go. 1, to provide detailed information about all marijuana use during the past 5 years. 2, whether your use of marijuana in the last 90 days occurred while in a position of trust, and if so, the specifics about the use while in such positions. 3, whether you intend to use marijuana in the future if you're selected for employment in a position of trust or while occupying any position working for or on behalf of the federal government. 4, why you intend to use or not use marijuana in the future while occupying a position of trust or any position working for or on behalf of the federal government. In there, it also says, have you ever used marijuana or a cannabis derivative while in a national security position? Answer no. If this occurred within the past 90 days and you listed above, you have to check yes. And then they also say, have you ever used marijuana or a cannabis derivative while employed in a criminal justice or public safety position? And then while employed does not necessarily mean your use was on the clock or on duty. Answer no if this has occurred in the past 90 days. And you listed above. Emphasis are added. If you answer yes to either of the threshold questions above, you are asked to provide dates for the first and last use, frequency of use, and circumstances of use while in a position of trust, regardless of how long ago it occurred. And in the past 5 years, if you have been involved in the illegal manufacture, cultivation, trafficking, production, transfer, shipping, receiving, or sale of marijuana or a cannabis derivative, if you answer yes to any of these threshold questions, you are asked for dates of first and last involvement, regardless of how long ago the first involvement occurred, frequency of the involvement, circumstances of the involvement, whether the involvement occurred while in a position of trust, and if so, the specifics about the involvement of which such positions, and whether you intend to engage in this type of conduct in the future while occupying a position of trust, and while you intend or don't intend to engage in this type of function while in the future while occupying a position of trust or working on behalf of the
federal government. And this article goes on and on and on, but it seems like they're updating some policies, and this may be good for some of these federal employees. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this update to their online form.
What's their purpose in doing this? Yes, that's my first question.
I would guess. I would guess. If I was to take an educated guess on this, Dale, I'm going to say that this is since they have recently said that they're not going to be a screening in regards with cannabis for these different federal positions, that now this is what the online form is going to look like when you would go and apply for that. And so this is their way of adapting to people using cannabis.
Well, I get that, but the questions they're asking have to do with concepts of moral turpitude because you are using illegal substances.
Yeah.
That makes you untrustworthy, okay? And to tie smoking weed into that, it's a bit of a stretch, okay, to say the least, that it makes somebody untrustworthy, or that you use cannabis in a position of trust, okay? So that means you're now untrustworthy if you've done this in the past. And then there's the Fifth Amendment problems they have with this. Oh, if you're involved in illegal cannabis activity, please spell out the date, time, who you're there with, you know, what.
And hold on, Dale. If cannabis causes if cannabis causes short-term memory loss, how do they expect these people to remember all the way back then?
There's another one of those assumptions. Yeah, I just think
I recall.
Aren't these federal employees unionized? Can't they figure that out for us?
Oh man!
I don't think the union's trying to promote people smoking weed and working for the government. That's another part of the problem here.
It reminds me of when we were in desperate need of like trilingual translators in our military intelligence apparatuses, and we still had like this don't ask, don't tell situation with gay members in the armed services, and like we were having, you know, homosexual intelligence officers who were incredibly bright and talented, not able to continue to serve their country, but for the choices they make romantically outside of the work that they were doing. And so this is one of those other things where, like, you know, we don't want to have policies that push talented people out of government service. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes on in working for the government, and the last thing we want to do is take our talented pool of potential continued government staff members and make it harder for them because of their choices that are state legal. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. That's not good. And even if this is revised questions, it's not where we need to get. It's not enlightened questions, and it's certainly not fair or equitable questions. Sorry to use that term, Jason, but it's not fair. It's not fair. If you haven't broken a state law and there's this contradiction between state and federal, let's figure out a way that doesn't allow for talent to leave the federal government.
Exactly.
We need to abolish the federal government. We don't need the federal government.
Yeah.
What we need to do is abolish the federal government. We need to abolish the CIA. What we need to do is allow the sheriffs and the marshals to retake the position they once had before the fraudulent intel agencies existed because of a cross-dressing man who decided one day that he wanted to be a top cop. It's all fake. The 9/11, 93 bombing, FBI.
That took a turn.
I mean, we can continue to keep going with it. All I'm saying is I heard the FBI needs to be shut down. Full conspiracy theorists.
Cross-dressing, he didn't even pick the right dress. Hemlines were going up that year, not down. He used silk organza. He should have had like a little satin.
On that note, thank you all for joining us.
Hold on 1 second. 1 second, Rico. We do want to make sure that we thank Ingrid.
Cross-dress shaming Hoover. Hold on. 75 years later.
Hold on, Yarrow. We want to make sure that we thank Ingrid and Ali Muffins for their super chats today. Thank you all very much.
Yes.
Hey, thank you, Ingrid.
Yes.
Love you guys. Ali Muffins, even though you're Canadian and Jason really hates you.
I wonder if it's with a Canadian dollar, if we're going to get less than $1.
And it's muffins with a Z, because if you're serious about your muffins, you got a Z at the end.
You got a little currency arbitrage going on the show today.
Exactly.
But thank you all for joining us for yet another episode of High 9 News. You can catch us weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our super fans, Ali Muffins, and Leah Patrick in the house today, getting the comments posted live on the big screen to our live audience.
It was Ingrid.
And on lives.
It was Ingrid.
I apologize, Ingrid. Much love. Chicago love Ingrid out there. As you know, I am over here with my adaptive cruise control on, and I can't really look at the screen, so I apologize to you.
It's all right.
All love. But yes.
And to the cross-sectional history of the FBI.
I'm not touching that. To our live audience, online supporters, across all media.
Touch it above the knee.
Across all media platforms, tuning in each day to the headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. To our vetted correspondent team tuning in from all over, giving us much needed variety of perspective and your respected opinions to the table as well. Thank you guys. Our production team, Cloud Media Partners, all of our sponsors keeping the lights on, and Adam is back in the house, his hair nice and feathered up. Ooh, birds of a feather flock together. Where Demetrius at? At?
Damn, son.
As always, Cannabis Sativa L, the reason why we show up to read these headlines every single day. Thank you too, baby girl. It has been Thursday, the thirstiest of all days of the week. March 14th, Pie Day. Make sure y'all get y'all slice. My name is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street. I'm literally on the streets right now. On my way up to the Hall of Flowers, final day. If y'all see me out there, make sure you show some love, and we'll get a little content in together too. But today, we are going to give it to the man, the myth, the legend, Yarrow Kubrin. Let's go, Yarrow. What you got?
All I gotta say is when you tell me that you're going to Hall of Flowers in California and for me to show some love, let me be really clear with all these viewers. If I show some love, I'm probably going to get arrested for indecent exposure.
Oh, boy.
Man. Oh, my God, man. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Yes, y'all have a great day.